This is the Rod Langway Fan Club.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rod Langway Fan Club podcast. I am your host, Jeff Roman. The calendar has flipped. It's 2025, and we are back with our mid-season show. So much to talk about. I'm with a couple of co-hosts who are in mid-season form. Mr. Mark Cheknita.
Well, to be fair, I've been playing through a little bit of pain. I think a couple more weeks on the training table, I should be back at 100%, though.
And John Snowden.
Yeah, also not at 100%. Between Christmas and New Year's, I may need a mid-season training camp to get back into gear here, but I'm ready to go for the show.
And as always, we are coming at you from the birthplace of Rod Langway, Taipei, Taiwan.
Yes, and last time we had a little incident with Rod's jersey. Some ink was spilt on it, unfortunately, but it has been dry cleaned and it's looking spick and span right now.
Yeah, incredible. How do you get that stain out?
Oh, yeah, she's a wizard down there at Snow Dry Cleaners. Great spot.
Wow, your girl is taking good care of you, John.
Yes, absolutely. And I should mention, we're going to have to cut it a little short today, guys. So let's get a move on.
What, you guys got plans?
Yeah.
It's the mid-season show.
I know. But yeah.
Okay. Well, what do we have planned today?
Well, it wouldn't be a mid-season show without the Midseason Moustache Awards. This season, we have the mustaches especially waxed and trimmed and just looking fantastic, wouldn't you say?
They look excellent.
Yeah.
Well, hold your horses, guys, because before we get to that, we have another segment. We actually premiered this segment last year at our mid-season point. Do you guys remember we did that Rod's 5 segment where we looked at 5 teams?
That's right. We were going to do the Rod Langway 17 from his Montreal days, but we decided it was too long.
Yeah, a little long.
A lot of teams to go through as well. No, but this year we have a little different twist. We're going to take a look at 5 key team statistics and how they are relevant and how they're connected to the current standings.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to dig into the numbers here, so let's get going.
Begin the Rod Langway 5. Let's take a closer look at the power play.
Yes, power plays are always so important. You have to maximize those opportunities, and the Winnipeg Jets have been doing so at a historic level thus far. They are actually less than a percentage point off of the Oilers' all-time mark of 32.4 that was set a couple of years ago. They're sitting at 31.5% halfway through the year. John, what's the secret in Winnipeg?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great start for the Jets power play. I mean, that first unit undoubtedly is playing excellent with Kyle Connor with 9 goals, as well as Gabriel Velarde. He's got 9 as well. And at the back end, Josh Morrissey is pitching in and really helping out with those 15 power play assists.
Yeah.
So the top guns are performing probably higher than most people expected them to be.
And nice to see Nikolai Ehlers chipping in there. You know, he's fought so hard and he finally gets on the first unit this season.
Yeah, and the second unit's been chipping in some offense too. It's always nice so that you don't have a wasted 30 seconds at the end there. So I don't know if they can sustain this, but if they do, they should stay near the top of the standings.
And coming in at number 2, the New Jersey Devils. Now, this team was such a disappointment last season. They missed the playoffs. They've been excellent throughout the first half this season, and the power play is a big reason why.
Yeah, and it all starts with Jack Hughes. He's such a dual threat out there. You have to respect his shot. And if you try to overplay the shot, he's a great distributor as well. He's already got 16 power play assists. He's one of the best power play players in the league, I think. And of course, you've also got guys like Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt who are also dual threats out there. So really, really dangerous forwards out there on the power play.
Yeah, those 3 are so good together.
Yeah, absolutely. And they create a lot of space for actually their leading goal scorer on the power play, Stefan Nason. He's got 7 power play goals, and he's great there in front of the net. So just a very dangerous unit.
It's incredible the kid from Texas has fit in so well there.
Yeah, a nice compliment with that physical presence. And he's just got a nose for the net.
And it's nice to see the veteran, Dougie Hamilton, back there manning the power play, and he's done a pretty good job.
For sure, yeah. And also on the second unit, they have Luke Hughes, and he's been pitching in as well. So it's nice to see him working his way up the ranks.
Yeah, no doubt that there is an embarrassment of riches in New Jersey. You look at a guy like Timo Meier, former 40-goal man, and he's stuck on Unit 2. So, I mean, even if there's an injury, they got a guy that can plug and play right away.
Yeah, so next up, very surprisingly, we have the pretty awful Detroit Red Wings coming in at number 3 with their power play percentage.
Easy there, John. They just beat your Jets.
They did.
They've been a little better lately.
They have been a little bit better, but they're pretty hit and miss. The power play is humming along magically, though.
Yes, that's one bright spot For hockey fans in Motown, Lucas Raymond has turned into quite the playmaker on that first power play unit as he's been feeding Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Larkin, who've been potting him.
Yeah, there is some talent for sure. And you've got Patrick Kane, who has made a living on the power play throughout his NHL career. The one area that I see maybe where they could improve a little bit is the power play defense. Moritz Seider gets most of those minutes, still yet to get a power play goal.
Yeah, but he's been a decent distributor.
Yes, he has. Eric Gustafsson as well. He's been a pretty good distributor. But most of the goals are coming from the forwards. Seems that they've struck a nice balance between the two. So if things keep humming along, maybe we'll see them rise up in the standings a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps them in the playoff conversation.
Another team that has really struggled this year is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, they've clawed themselves back to relevancy. They're still fighting it out for a playoff spot, but they've got the fourth best power play in the NHL.
Yeah, very similar to the story in Detroit. Of course, they've got the elite Sidney Crosby leading the way with 14 power play points. He is the catalyst for offense on that team.
He sure is, but it's not like there's no other cast of characters surrounding him. Matt Grzelcyk has been a pretty decent contributor from the back end. Of course, you have Evgeny Malkin, Erik Karlsson, Ricard Raquel, Brian Rust does a little bit. So it's, kind of power play by committee after Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, they really do run two units there. Different than a lot of teams that go really heavy on the first unit. They like to mix it up.
Yeah, for a team that has struggled in the past on the power play, they're doing much better this season.
Yeah, maybe it's just enough to let them sneak into the playoffs, but we will see.
And coming in there at number 5 for power play efficiency, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, led by Nikita Kucherov. But let's switch gears. Let's look at the bottom, guys. Whose power play is really struggling? And it's the New York Islanders. Now, they've had a rough first half, and their futility on the power play is a big reason why.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this lineup for the power play, and you've got guys like Kyle Palmieri and Anders Lee. These are not world beaters offensively. Noah Dobson had a really good year last year. This year, not so good. He is leading the team with 6 points, though, all assists.
Yeah, I mean, they need a lot more out of Matt Barzal. I know he was hurt for a little while, but he's only got 3, and Bo Horvat has 1 goal and 1 assist on the power play. They need a lot more of him, like he was playing in Vancouver when he played in that bumper spot there.
Yeah, I just don't think they have the talent to do it. They might get a little better because this is almost historically bad, but I think they're going to stay near the bottom and they're going to miss the playoffs because of it.
And any other teams that really stand out for you guys on the power play?
A couple bad surprises. I would have thought that Dallas would be a little bit better than 15%. And any power play that has a guy like David Pasternak firing pucks on it being down around 13% is also pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, Boston and Dallas having a rough go on the power play. John, what about you? Which team sort of stood out to you?
Well, I mean, last year and in previous years, the Edmonton Oilers obviously have had an outstanding power play. Currently, they sit at 13th. While not terrible, I think a lot of people would expect more from them.
I think we'll see that climb in the second half, though.
And I'm also surprised about my Toronto Maple Leafs. They've had such a good power play at times, but to be 18th at the midseason mark, that's shocking.
Yeah, new coach maybe had something to do with that, but they're playing pretty well all around.
Austin Matthews is back too. I think they'll climb up.
Okay, boys. Well, let's move along here to the PK, shall we?
Ooh, PK Subban. Yes, good call. We haven't talked about him in a long time.
He's retired, Mark. I mean, the penalty kill, the power play's twin brother.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also an important part, special teams.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Yes. And on the PK, at the halfway point, we have the Dallas Stars leading the league in penalty kill percentage. Now, we mentioned about how their power play had struggled, but they've been excellent down a man.
Yes, and of course, any good penalty kill has to have a top-end goaltender, and Jay Gonder is one of the best in the business. It all starts with him.
Yeah, for sure. It is nice when you have some of your depth forwards that can really pitch on in that PK, and Sam Steele has found a good role there, along with Colin Blackwell.
Let's shift to another defensive stalwart, and their penalty kill is a big part of this story. The Carolina Hurricanes, whose penalty kill is anchored by a couple of Jordans. Stahl and Martinook have been making beautiful music on the PK for quite a few seasons now, and this year's no different.
Yeah, and on the second unit, they have Sebastian Aho, better known for his offensive acumen, but he's pretty good for a shorthanded goal on the PK as well.
Oh, yeah, you better watch those D-to-D passes because he's a predator out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's always a threat. And on defense, on their first unit, they've been rolling with the veteran, Brent Burns. And of course, they've got Jacob Slavin, who I feel like we might be talking about a little later.
Yeah. So moving along here to a surprising team at number 3, the Nashville Predators. This was a team we were very worried about at the first quarter mark, and we're still very worried about them. But a bright spot is their penalty kill. So what do we have to thank for their penalty kill?
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise for me. Their forwards consist of Colton Sissons and Mark Jankowski. So a bit of a surprise there. They're gritty players, though.
Yeah, not a lot of star power. But again, common thread with most good penalty kills is the goaltender. UC Saros is an excellent goaltender, and I think he probably covers up some of the mistakes on the back end.
Yeah, and Brady Shea has found himself in a nice spot there on the first unit as well. He's a very competent defender.
Yeah, he's not scoring, but at least he's chipping in on the defensive end.
So that's the top 3 right there. How about at the bottom of the penalty kill rankings? Who do we find there?
Well, I'm sure that you guys will remember that the New York Islanders had the worst power play.
Yes.
Well, the New York Islanders have the worst penalty kill in the league.
By a massive margin. They're at 63.5%. The next worst team is almost 10 points ahead of them. That is god-awful.
Yeah, that is shocking stuff. Things obviously not working out in terms of special teams for the New York Islanders so far this season.
Yeah, Patrick Waugh has got to turn that around.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. You know, you got a goalie like Ilya Sorokin, who's excellent, and they've always been known as a pretty defensively stable team. So this is a big surprise. And well, I guess it's no surprise that they're the worst team in the East because of this.
And Detroit, who's having such a terrible season. We said they're great on the power play. Well, it's the reverse on the penalty kill, as the Red Wings are the second worst in the league.
Yeah, well, you know, patchy goaltending, an aging defense core. This is not shocking.
Okay, boys, which other teams have kind of surprised you on the PK so far?
Well, I look at a team like the Minnesota Wild, who are one of the best in the league. Their penalty kill, not very good, just a little bit north of the 70% mark. So there's some room for improvement there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from the other angle. The Chicago Blackhawks have been horrendous all season. But their penalty kill has been okay. They're sitting at number 7, so a bit of a surprise there.
And I would just point out that the New York Rangers, who have had such a crazy up and down season, they're pretty good at the first quarter. They were atrocious during the second quarter, but somehow, some way, their penalty kill is hanging in at 6th in the NHL.
Yeah, you got to think Shesterkin's a big part of that.
Okay, how about we shift over to our next category here? We are doing home records. Now, what are some of the advantages of playing at home?
Ah, yes, home sweet home. Well, you got to think home cooking is a big part of that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest advantage, of course, is having the last change, especially for teams that have high-end coaching. That little edge can make all the difference.
And the home crowd, the roar of the home crowd behind you. So let's take a look at some of the top teams at home.
Yeah, so you look at the top of the league home records, and these are some of the best teams in the NHL. And I think a couple of interesting ones. The Los Angeles Kings are the best home team. And I think about
that's shocking, man.
Well, I don't know if it's shocking. I mean, they've been really good this year, but you think about those Western road swings where teams come in, especially from the East, and they're just dead tired by the end of their trips, and they're probably not giving their best.
Yeah, what a huge change. Like at home, LA has been almost unbeatable throughout the first half, and on the road, they're just 50-50.
Yes, and coming in at number 2 is Las Vegas. And yes, they do enjoy the home advantage, but I think there's a bit of an away disadvantage for some of the players that enjoy the festivities of Las Vegas.
I could see that.
Maybe hitting the tables and having a few drinks before the game. So yeah, that might play a factor into their great home record.
They are also just one of the best teams in the NHL.
Yes, that too. And I mean, some of the next teams on the list also excellent home records.
Yeah. Now, John, your Winnipeg Jets have been excellent at home. And I'm really happy to see recently they've had some sellouts. So the crowd's behind them.
Yeah, they're doing well. So that's a bright spot for Winnipeg. And yeah, the home crowd does always cheer them on with a little extra gusto.
And Mark, how about the Washington Capitals at home?
Yes, the house that Rod built. Well, they've been good everywhere this year, but it'll be interesting to see if they can keep it up in the second half.
And John, the Dallas Stars have been incredible at home.
Yes, 16 wins at home. That is an excellent record. Otherwise, they've been kind of middling. So the Ruckus crowd, I think, really gets those guys out to play some hockey.
I love that goal song they have, too. It really fires up the crowd and me.
Yeah, I still like the way they do the Stars during the national anthem. That's cool. And some great uniforms, I might add.
Yes, absolutely. But how about we move on to some of the road teams that have found a lot of success so far this season?
Yeah, now some NHL teams are road warriors, and it's not easy to play on the road. I mean, these guys are taking flights, taking buses, staying in hotels, but some teams find success there.
Yeah, sometimes getting onto the road takes a little bit of pressure off. You simplify your play, and especially if you've been caught in a rut, sometimes it's good to get out there and spend some more time with the guys.
So who's been the best on the road?
Well, the Minnesota Wild have had an excellent road record, not as good at home. What might we attribute it to their road success here?
I guess they just like living out in the wild.
Yeah, roughing it.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They seem to really cohere when they're on the road. And yeah, they've been playing some excellent hockey.
Yeah, that one really surprised me just because you think about how great the fans are in Minnesota, but these guys play much better on the road.
Now let's shift to another team that has fared much better away from home, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. Maybe not such a big surprise with the circus that's been going on in Vancouver this year.
Yeah, unbelievable, the discrepancy between their home record and on the road. This team's got so many problems, guys. I can't believe what's going on. The drama between Pettersson and Miller.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the media circus must be a massive distraction for the whole team. So it's no surprise that once they get on the road, they start to play a little bit better hockey. There are some other problems, of course, too. I mean, Quinn Hughes is hurt, Demko also out. This team is a bit of a mess in general.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if Vancouver can turn it around during the second half.
And if they don't, I could see the team jet leaving behind Miller or Pettersson at the airport as one of them changes jerseys by the end of the season.
So how about the Utah Hockey Club here? They seem to be doing very well on the road, not so much at home. What might this be all about?
This was slightly surprising for me to see. You know, you've got the first year the team has been in Utah. Surely the fans are very excited to have them, but they have not played well at home. But on the road, this team's decent.
Yeah, well, I guess they got used to moving around a lot, the uncertainty of what bed you're going to sleep in tomorrow. Maybe that's just kind of their jam.
Yeah, maybe it is. Hopefully they do find a little comfort in their new home throughout the rest of the season here.
I was surprised to see that the Carolina Hurricanes are just a 500 team on the road. That's really held them back this year. Another surprise was the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have been horrendous on the road. If they were just a little better, they'd be right into playoffs.
They should bring a cannon with them on the road to fire every time they score
There
a
you
goal.
go.
That might turn things around.
Yeah, feel like home on the road.
And for our fifth and final stat of the Langway 5, we've got goal differential.
Yeah, so leading the pack, we do have the Winnipeg Jets. We've already talked about them some. Their offense has been excellent. Number 2, the Washington Capitals. Offensive dynamo so far this season. What can we say about them?
Well, I think the most impressive thing is that they did not miss a beat after Alex Ovechkin went out with that broken leg. He is now back, and I think as they try to pile up some goals for him down the stretch, that number should stay pretty healthy.
I can't believe he's back already.
Russian machine rarely breaks. Never breaks, sometimes breaks.
Sometimes breaks, but
Easily
not for
mended.
long. Easily mended, for sure. Yeah. Outstanding. I mean, we talked about a lot of these guys in the first quarter show. Connor McMichael has had a good year. Tom Wilson scoring goals. I think the team dynamic in general has been really, really good for this team.
Coming in at number 3, this might be a bit of a surprise based on what we thought would happen in our preseason preview. The Tampa Bay Lightning plus 35 so far. Wow.
Yes, excellent first half for Tampa Bay, obviously led by their stars. Nikita Kucherov has been very, very good. Braden Point, of course, excellent. Career year for Anthony Cirelli, and I think Jake Gensel has fit in really, really well. Probably a bit of an improvement over Steven Stamkos. I kind of hate to say it, I love Stammer, but Jake Gensel has done a great job.
Yeah, Gensel. He was the big free agent acquisition that we were looking at in this past summer, and he's been awesome. He's fit in great.
And of course, Andrei Vasilevsky is back to his Vezina form. And I really did like the acquisition. Bringing back Ryan McDonough, I think, has stabilized that decor.
And you cannot forget about Victor Hedman. He's been great. He's carrying a heavy load back there, and he's been good so far.
Yeah, so if everything remains in place, I mean, this team looks like they could be a contender again.
Now, rounding out the top 5 teams, goal differential number 4, we've got the Vegas Knights. We've already talked about their great season. And the New Jersey Devils, of course, they pile up a ton of goals, so they're plus 27 as well. What about surprises, you guys? Anything that stands out to you in this list?
I'm shocked that the Boston Bruins are at a minus 19.
Yeah, that's a pretty troubling number. They're definitely overperforming. Another team similar to that, Calgary Flames, minus 17. If we're going to look at teams that might fall out of playoff contention, these numbers might be signs that these are two teams we can look towards.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not a surprise. The San Jose Sharks, they round out the bottom of the league. They are a very ugly minus 39. So, hurting days.
Young team, growing pains, but, Celebrini, Will Smith, exciting times ahead in San Jose, just not this year.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up our Langway number 5.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
No, I was referring to the moustache, the old soup strainer.
An awfully big mustache.
How much has that hair seen in the months that it's been on my face?
A mustache. Now we both have said mustache. A mustache. If you've only got a mustache.
This is what a real mustache looks like.
Some have said this is the most prestigious podcast hockey award in Taiwan.
That's saying a lot.
Sure is.
Where would you guys like to begin?
Well, I think we should start with the beginnings of a mustache. The Peach Fuzz Award for the best rookie seems like an appropriate place to begin.
Then let's start in the city of brotherly love, the Philadelphia Flyers and their rookie, Matvei Mishkov.
Yes, and on Team Star for offensive talent, he has been a breath of fresh air. Really, especially in the overtimes, he's put up some beautiful numbers, and he's been a real threat on the power play as well. Starting off the year with 12 goals, 17 assists. He's dangerous out there.
John, do you think that Torts wants him to win the Rookie of the Year?
I don't think Torts really cares. He just wants the team to win. He doesn't mind scratching him from time to time. So that may affect his point numbers come end of the season, but we will see about that. So next up, we should talk about Lane Hudson, American defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens. He has had an excellent start to his rookie season.
And Mark, I know you have a lot to say. You're a Habs fan. What do you think so far?
Yeah, he's exceeded my expectations. The points are great, 27 points so far. Power play quarterback, Patrick Laine has been absolutely tearing it up.
Yeah, great to have him back.
And I think a big part of that is getting some of these nice passes from Lane Hudson, who's running things at the top. But for me, the most impressive number is his time on ice. He's averaging 22 minutes, 33 seconds a game. He's been an absolute stalwart back there, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. He's a small guy. People were worried about durability, but he's halfway through the year, and he's such an important player already.
Yeah, what an improvement Montreal has had recently.
Yeah, he's been a massive part of it.
I was a bit worried that maybe he was a bit too small for the NHL.
So was I, but again, we're halfway through the year here, and he's shown no signs of slowing down, so...
And John, who is our third nominee?
Well, look no further than first overall pick McLean Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks. He has been excellent to start the season, possibly better than Connor Bedard has been in his second NHL season. So very, very good start for him. What do we think about Celebrini?
It was a shame that he got injured. He missed a bunch of games, but he's come back on fire.
Almost like a rite of passage for some of these great rookies over the years. I remember McDavid going out in his rookie season. Bedard got dinged up in his rookie year as well. So he looks like he's healthy, and he is, on a pretty weak team. He has to face the toughest matchups every night, and he's thriving almost a point per game.
I just love Celebrini's shot. Man, he's got a rocket. He's definitely got my vote here, boys.
I mean, it's hard to argue with Celebrini. He's going to be a stud for years, but I look at what Hudson has done elevating Montreal into playoff contention now and the huge minutes he's playing. I got to go Hudson, defenseman. It's tough to play D as a young player, and he's been so good. He looks like a veteran out there already.
So, John, you cast the tie-breaking vote here.
Okay, well, in that case, the mustache goes to... Got to go with Lane Hudson.
Ooh.
Mark. Yeah, I agree with some of your points. I mean, just to come into the league as a rookie, as a defenseman, and play as well as he's been playing and have all those points and really lead the charge in the power play, I think is very, very impressive. We got to give it to him. We do have an honorable mention, though.
Yes, Dustin Wolf, the goaltender for the Calgary Flames. Where would they be without him?
Yeah, and if they make the playoffs and he continues to be such a big part of it, he could be the dark horse who comes in and steals it in the second half. So lots of interesting developments left in the rookie race.
Let's move on to the coach of the year at the midseason point. Now, coaches, they usually have a full mustache, and we call this one the Paul McLean, the Walrus.
What a beautiful, beautiful mustache that man had. I'd love to see him back coaching just for the mustache.
Yeah, one of the all-time best. Before we get started with the awards, though, we should probably mention some of the coaching changes that have taken place so far this NHL season. We did mention that Jim Montgomery was fired by the Boston Bruins and replaced by Joe Sacco. Jim Montgomery himself was picked up by the St. Louis Blues. No surprise there, I guess, that Montgomery was swept up so quickly. Luke Richardson was fired by the Chicago Blackhawks and replaced with interim coach Anders Sorensen. And lastly, before we get to the awards, we got to hit our honorable mentions. Sheldon Keefe of the New Jersey Devils has really turned that team around this season. So props to him.
First year in New Jersey, it's going pretty well so far.
Yeah, he's unlocking their potential for sure. But speaking of unlocking potential, a team that I didn't think had any, Calgary Flames are punching way above their weight, and you got to give some credit to Ryan Huska out there in Calgary.
For sure. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, though. Who are our top three?
Well, I would like to nominate Paul Maurice. I find teams that often do really well consistently, their coaches for some reason do not get the consideration that they deserve. But this is a team that they won the Stanley Cup last year. They've now been in 2 consecutive Stanley Cup finals, and Maurice still has this team in contention.
Yes, they have been outstanding this year. I have to go with Scott Arniel.
Of course you do. It's your team.
Yeah, but I mean, the Jets, come on. They've been excellent all season. They've hit a couple rough patches, but their record speaks for itself. First year as head coach with the Jets, and he has really shown that he can lead this team to an excellent record at the midseason.
Those are both excellent choices, but we got to remember both of those teams were outstanding last year in the regular season as well. I think for degree of difficulty, I give my vote to Spencer Carberry. You look at all of the new players that they acquired, bringing in guys like, well, the biggest one for me is Pierre-Luc Dubois. He has fit in seamlessly on that team. He'd been such a headache for other teams and other coaches. To get him pushing in the right direction and to get this team to the top of the standings is, I think, very impressive.
All right, let's not delay any further. And the mustache goes to
Spencer Carberry. Lots of good candidates, but he was head and shoulders the best of the bunch for us.
Yeah, he has done an excellent job for the Washington Capitals. Remember last year when they squeaked into the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Their goal differential was brutal.
Yeah.
And now this year, they've completely turned it around. He's done a fantastic job in DC.
Yes, enjoy that mustache, Spence.
Next up is the award for Best Goalie at the midseason. This was a tough one. Let's get things started with honorable mentions.
Sure, yeah, this was a tough one. He's not going to win the award, but I do want to mention Andrei Vasilevsky, who, of course, for many years has been the best goalie in hockey. He's still among them, putting up very solid numbers on a resurgent Tampa Bay Lightning team. And it's tough for him because his backup is not the most reliable. So there's really a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and he's held up well so far.
We should also mention Darcy Kemper of the Los Angeles Kings. He's been hurt a little bit, but his numbers have been excellent. He does play on a very good defensive team, but I think he is not let down.
Yeah, he's only lost twice in regulation all year.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been very, very good.
I wish we could nominate the Leafs goalies. Guys, you got to give me that one. They've been an amazing combo this year. I don't think the Leafs have ever had quite this tandem before.
Yeah, they've been a dynamic duo. Let's see what they do in the playoffs, though.
So let's get to it. Our first nominee has to be Connor Hellebuck, Winnipeg Jets. This guy has been outstanding.
Yes, he's leading the league in most of the categories, save percentage, GAA, shutouts. We should also mention, though, Philip Gustafsson. He has been great for the Minnesota Wild, and it's a huge reason for their success through to the midpoint of the season. Real big resurgence from last season.
Yeah, big bounce back from him.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions around him. People were wondering if we'd see their young goalie Wallstead, but with the way Gustafsson's been playing, they might not need him this year.
And hopefully he stays healthy. Really important. It's nice to see Marc-Andre Fleury do well, but they need Gustafsson. Mark, who's our third nominee?
Well, you guys remember last year, the New Jersey Devils goaltending situation was an absolute mess. Well, they went out and addressed that situation in the summertime, bringing in Jakob Markstrom, and he has delivered. He's been one of the most steady goaltenders, playing big minutes for the Devils, and I think he's a big reason why they're near the top of their division.
Okay, so those are the nominees. Who does the stash go to? The mustache goes to
Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, not much debate here. I think it's pretty clear cut at this point.
Yeah, this was one of the easier ones for us to get through. He's just been outstanding so far.
Yeah, if he can keep this going, he's a slam dunk for the Vezina.
Well, I know everyone in Winnipeg's waiting to see if he can carry it over to the playoffs this year, though.
Yes, we are.
Let's move along to best defenseman. Now, we have split this award into two categories.
Yes, because the NHL has the Norris Trophy, and it's pretty much become the best offensive defenseman award. And that's fine, but we feel like there should be two awards for two very different types of defensemen. Let's start with the offensive ones first.
Okay, so honorable mentions here. I do have to do this for my Winnipeg Jet. I know more Jets talk, guys, but Josh Morrissey, I think, has been outstanding on both sides of the puck, but offensively as well.
All right. Good call, Johnny.
Now let's get started with what I think is probably the most surprising candidate. If we'd mentioned him as a possibility at the start of the year, you guys would have laughed at us, but Zach Werenski is having himself a season. He is number one in the NHL with 26 minutes and 23 seconds per game. He's second in points with 43. He's a plus player on a pretty bad Columbus team. He's their Mr. Everything. It's wonderful to see the captain healthy and producing in Columbus.
Great story. I would say for our second nominee, Quinn Hughes, Vancouver Canucks. Now, I know he has been hurt. Hopefully he'll be back. But man, this guy is dominant. Where would the Canucks be without him?
Yeah, on what is a pretty thin defense core, he is so important of obviously quarterbacking that power play, but playing in all situations and logging heavy minutes as well. I mean, he's well over 25 minutes a game as well.
Yeah, and number 3, I think probably no surprise to our listeners here, is Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, having himself one heck of a season here. He's already up to 49 points.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 points on the power play. I mean, this is the real deal back there. Look no further than Cale Makar.
Okay, and the mustache goes to...
Cale
Makar.
I mean, number one in points, number one in goals, number one in assists. He's plus 14. It was pretty easy. He is the best defenseman in the world.
Next, let's talk about the mustache for best defensive defenseman.
Yes, this is our signature award here. This is the Rod Langway
Yes.
mustache, named after the man himself, the Secretary of Defense, one of the greatest defensive defensemen of all time.
One of.
Well, yeah, probably
Sacrilege. The greatest defensive defenseman of all time.
Yes, no doubt. So let's start.
Rod Langway.
Rod the man. Let's start things off here with former Rod Langway Mustache Award winner, Jacob Slavin of the Carolina Hurricanes. He has been outstanding this year. Not any surprise, but he really helps to keep the puck out of the net there in Carolina.
Yeah, he is the anchor of one of the stingiest D-cores, always on that first penalty killing unit, physical presence, skates the puck out well. And their goaltending is okay, but I really think Carolina goaltenders always look a little bit better when they got a guy like Jacob Slavin back there clearing the crease.
Next, I would like to nominate Chris Tanev.
Of course you would.
Of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This guy is a warrior. And I know Craig Berube has helped out a lot bringing that goals against down, but Tanev has been awesome. Him and McCabe are a great shutdown pair.
Yeah, lots of sandpaper on that pairing. I mean, yeah, this guy will do anything to get the puck out of the zone, to block a shot with his face if he needs to. Physical presence. I have to admit, Tanev has been excellent for Toronto this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Just what the Leafs needed after all these years. So who is our third pick there, Mr. Mark?
Well, this is a guy that I think he gets a lot of love in the analytics community, and some of the hockey nerds love him, and I love him. I watch a lot of Dallas Stars hockey. Obviously, Miro Heiskanen is the best defenseman in Dallas, but as far as just pure defense, you need a shutdown situation guy. Esa Lindell has been one of the best in the business for years, and it's time to give him a little bit of love.
Yeah, he has been great. I believe this is the first time ever he's been nominated, so he's due.
Yeah, he's always out there on PK1, plays the big minutes. You're defending a 1-goal lead. You want Esa Lindell out there. Skates well, physical, smart, does it all.
Okay, well, I guess that about brings us to the award itself. The mustache goes to...
Esa Lindell.
Congratulations. Yeah, first time mustache for you. I'm sure you'll treasure it for the rest of your days.
Now, before we move on to the MVP, I do want to give an honorable mention to a couple other guys we talked about in this conversation. LA Kings defenseman Mikey Anderson and Vladdy Gavrikov. They play together in all situations. PK1, they've been excellent.
Yeah, and they've really had to step up their game with Drew Doughty out, and they've done it.
Yeah, for sure. LA's looking all the better for having them back there.
And our final mustache goes to MVP. We have a lot of worthy candidates.
Yeah, this was not cut and dried like it has been in some other years. Let's start with the honorable mentions. I want to start with Jack Eichel, a guy who's not getting as much love. His numbers aren't as gaudy, although he has 52 points, so there's nothing bad about that. But for me, it's that he plays in all situations. He kills penalties. He's out there defending leads. He's a physical presence. He's just been such a great leader for them since coming over from Buffalo.
Yeah, great player on a great team. Vegas
also leads the league in plus minus at plus 25.
Impressive.
Okay, I would also like to give an honorable mention to Nikita Kucherov. I mean, this is a guy, he's no spring chicken anymore, but he is so dominant out there offensively, just a fierce competitor, so good with the puck, so dangerous with his passes, and just a joy to watch. So you got to mention him when it comes to best players in the league.
Absolutely. It's crazy to think that those guys didn't make the cut, which means we've got some really impressive candidates this year.
Where would you like to begin then?
Well, let's start in Edmonton, but not with the guy you might think. So obviously Connor McDavid is a perennial contender for MVP, and by the time it's all said and done, he might beat his way to the top of the mountain. But for now, the lead horse in Edmonton is Leon Draisaitl, who's got 29 goals, by far the league leader at this point.
Yeah, and how many game winners does he have?
9 game-winning goals.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So good on the power play.
Yeah, he is outstanding. His shot is really tricky to save for goaltenders, I think. Who else are we looking at here?
Well, look no further for our second nominee than Nathan McKinnon. 40 games played, 65 points. Wow, he plays 23 minutes a game. That leads all forwards. We know Colorado was slow out of the gate, right? They made a big trade. They got 2 new goalies, but Nathan McKinnon has just been unreal.
Yeah.
Also leading the league at 1.63 points per game is impressive as well.
Yeah, he's an intense personality there. The fire in his eyes must be terrifying for defenders as he rips into the ozone. Let's move on, though, and talk about our third nominee for MVP here, Kirill Kaprizov. He's been outstanding for the Minnesota Wild.
He has.
Yeah, he's tied for second in goals with 23. He has tailed off a little bit in the second quarter of the season, but he's still been outstanding and far and away the best player for the Minnesota Wild.
Well, that's the thing. The next nearest guy, I think, is like 18, 19 points behind him. So he's so important on his team. And you could argue he is probably the most important player to any of these teams.
Yeah, where would the Wild be without him?
Yeah. Probably not in the playoffs.
We might find out if he's not back for a while. It's going to be hard for Minnesota to hang on their spot in the standings.
Oh, I hope he's back because Minnesota's a completely different team without him.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess this is the big moment here. Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
Okay, the mustache goes to...
Nathan McKinnon.
Nate Dogg, congratulations. What an honor.
I've never seen him with a mustache.
I bet he
Think
looked
he could
pretty
pull
good.
it off?
Yeah.
I think he could.
I think he'd look fantastic.
Wow. Well, that was a lot of fun. What do we have up next here, boys?
Well, let's hit the mailbag.
Sorry. What was the question? I would totally veto that. What kind of league are we running here anyways? I'll have to consult the rule book on that one. Remember the trade guidelines. Can we get some friendly questions here? You guys have got to dress your players.
Here it is. This is everybody's favorite segment. This is Ask the Commish. You can still get your last minute questions in. Send us an email at rodlangwayfanclub@gmail.com. Send us a tweet at Rod Langway Fan Club. You can hit us up on Twitter, anywhere you want. We also have a mailing address, pigeon carrier, all that stuff. So get your questions to us in any way you can. What is up first?
Well, I've got something here from a friend of the show, Mr. Garrett Thacker, who you guys all know. He writes about overtime. So he says, I was recently watching my Ducks and Mark's Habs in overtime, and it was really, really boring. No odd man rushes at all. He says, I understand that OT is a possession game, but since its introduction, teams are playing it more and more safe, resulting in really boring overtimes. What do you guys think we can do to fix this problem? I think a shot clock might be a good idea. Force teams to take a shot attempt or suffer a defensive zone draw, maybe even a minor penalty. What do you guys think could be done to shake up overtime?
All right. Thanks for the question, Garrett. We really appreciate it. He's a Anaheim Ducks fan. Shot clock, that's an interesting proposal. I guess maybe I would just throw out there, maybe you say the red line. You can't bring the puck back over the red line. It's a little bit like an over and back in basketball.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would go one further. I would say once you cross the blue line into the offensive zone, you can't skate it out past there. Keep the puck in the O zone, keep the puck moving, get a shot on net as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's interesting because 3-on-3 has changed a lot since they brought it in. Mark, what's your idea?
I do like Garrett's idea of a shot clock. I think the over and back rules that you guys came up with are also pretty innovative. I want to go even more radical. I want to overhaul the point system. So let's make regulation wins and overtime wins 3 points instead of 2.
Ooh.
And if it does go to a shootout and you win, you just get 2 points. So that way you're incentivized to really push for it and try to win without having to do it in the shootout. I think that'll get rid of the conservative play. We'll go back to the way 3-on-3 kind of looked like in the beginning, back and forth, odd man rushes and just chaos out there.
Yeah, it was so fun when it first came in, but it's kind of devolved, like Garrett was saying, into it's sort of a boring
Yeah, it's so conservative. It's terrible.
I mean, we could also combine some of these ideas as well. You could have the shot clock.
All of
and,
them.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Hey, now we're talking.
Yeah, really shake things up there. But yeah, good question. Thanks, Garrett.
All right. What do we have up next, boys?
Well, we have a tweet here from H. Morenz, and he just says, this is kind of for you, as it usually is, but especially for you this time.
Yeah.
It just says, the Rolleman curse is real. The New York Rangers are out of a playoff spot. Commissioner Jeff Rolleman, would you like a do-over with your Stanley Cup pick?
Wow, I can't believe the collapse of the New York Rangers. I picked these guys to win the cup.
Yeah.
It's not working out for me.
No.
Guys, what happened to this team?
Well, I think you're a wizard and you have cursed them. But also, in all seriousness, everything has gone wrong. A lot of guys are underperforming. I mean, Zibanejad looks like a different player out there.
He does.
Obviously, all the drama with Trouba, that was a disaster.
Gets traded out.
They move on from Capo, pennies on the dollar.
Another
It just
big
feels
trade
like
we've
panic
seen
mode
this
in New
season.
York right now.
Yeah, I wonder how long it is before we see a coaching change there. I think that's probably the next step if this team doesn't turn things around quick.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think this season can be salvaged?
I wonder about that. I mean, this team won the President's Trophy last year. They've gone to the conference finals 2 out of 3 seasons. It's rare that you see such a collapse. This team struggled 5-on-5 last year. We knew that.
Yeah.
Their special teams bailed them out. Shesterkin, who was incredible last year, especially in the second half, just hasn't been as good. And now he's hurt.
Yeah, this is terrible. But let's get to the second part of the question, Jeff. Do you want to change your pick?
Yeah.
You want to curse another team?
I do, guys.
You should pick the Leafs.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in the towel on the Rangers. Although I think there's an outside chance they could do it, but I just don't see it. I'm going to change my pick. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going with the Colorado Avalanche. That's my new pick.
Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah, kind of off the cuff as well as it usually is.
Well, you know
with
what? Ever since that they made those big trades, getting Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, hopefully he's all right. Great. They look so much better in goal now.
Yeah. They really addressed that. Hopefully that pans out for the rest of the season.
Let's hope the curse doesn't do them in by the time we get to the third quarter mark.
Now, what about you guys? Are you guys going to change your picks?
So I picked the Dallas Stars at the start of the season. They haven't been quite as good. I might say a little bit of a disappointment, but they're in a tough division, and I still think the talent is there. I'm going to stand pat with the Dallas Stars.
And I talked a little bit about this in the last show. I'm going to stick with the Oilers. I'm not convinced that they can win with the current lineup, but I am convinced that they're going to be making big moves at the deadline. They're going to bring in a defenseman, and that's really all they're missing. One more top 4 defenseman who can play steady defensive minutes, and that will make them a favorite. So no, I'm sticking with the Oilers.
Okay, yeah, we pointed out in our first quarter show that they'd struggled out of the gate. They really picked it up in the second quarter.
Yeah, to no one's surprise.
Yeah, for sure. The talent is there. So yeah, Jeff, hopefully the Colorado Avalanche turns out better than the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils and the Calgary Flames for you. And a brighter future is ahead for them.
Quite the path of destruction you've left, sir.
All right. I think that about wraps up Ask the Commish.
Yes. Now, we should make a programming note to everyone here. Normally, we would be seeing us again at the 3/4 mark. However, this year, we've got the Four Nations Cup coming up in February, and we're going to have a special edition of the Rod Langway Fan Club podcast so we can break down the 4 teams, some of the snubs, and what to expect in this exciting tournament.
Yes, the rosters have been announced. We've been chewing them over a little bit. We're not quite ready to talk in depth, but we are excited. It's the first time we've had a chance to cover real best on best international hockey, so stay tuned for that.
I cannot wait for that tournament. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you had yourselves a time.
Well, I hope you had yourselves a time. Hope you had yourselves a time. Hope you had time, yourselves a time. Hope you had yourselves a time. Well, I hope you had yourselves a time. Hope you had